Good evening, everyone. Hope everybody's well. It's a Thursday, the 9th of November. We're going to be doing a game preview with Mark Smith in a moment, which is part of All Things Sky Blue, and also George is going to join us from Potalytics, so we can learn a little bit about the Stoke element of it. Obviously, you can find us on All Things Sky Blue on Twitter or X. Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. We are partnered with the Anecdote Sports Bar as well, which, as you can see, is scrolling our ticker at the bottom. We are on YouTube as well, so if you can please go and like and subscribe, it would be much appreciated. We are trying to get our subscribers up to about 250, so that'd be quite nice, a nice landmark for us. If we could, that'd be much appreciated. So, as always, I'm joined by Mark Smith. Good evening, Mark. How are you?
Good evening, Stuart. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, good, thank you.
Good. And also we are joined by George from Potalytics. Good evening, George.
Good evening, guys. How are you doing?
Not too bad, thank you. Not too bad. How are you?
Good. Yeah, pretty good, thank you.
All right, yeah. Good. So as we get started then, if you just can explain sort of what Potalytics is and where we can find you guys.
Yeah, so Potalytics is essentially just kind of me delving a little bit into statistics and analysis of football. I started it up at the last New Year around about. You see the arguments on Twitter, and I just started to think, I feel like there's an actual answer to this, and I can try and find it out. So kind of my rants and raves and ramblings about statistics and analysis to do with Stoke. So yeah, you can find me at Potalytics on Twitter, or potalytics.blog is my website for kind of longer form things.
Oh, okay, brilliant, excellent, lovely. So let's go and delve straight into it then with you, George, and our history that we've had. So the last 6 games that we've had, we've won 3, we've lost 1, and we've drew 2, I believe. Unfortunately, it doesn't bode well, really, because the last 2 games between us, it's been the away side that's won the game.
Yeah.
So obviously, because you do obviously the statistics side of things, obviously you'll know and delve probably far more than I will. So do you want to go into a little bit of history between the clubs as well?
Yeah, it's a very strange one. I think prior to April, generally the feeling has been that going to Coventry is a pretty dire affair, I think, for Stoke. Especially rather since we've been down and since you guys have come back up. It's not one that people have been looking forward to.
Okay.
But then, we've had Alex Neil now for over a year, and I think the away game in April was kind of the pinnacle of where he felt, or where the fans felt, that he was showing us the football that he wanted to play. And that, I think, the 4-0 victory there was that was what we thought was his blueprint at the time. So I think there's still good memories there, but it'd be interesting to see whether we can get anywhere near that kind of performance again.
Yeah, I remember slightly, and unfortunately, that you did play us off the park a little bit. We didn't particularly show up either, which I think it kind of showed what Stoke were all about a little bit more, really, because we didn't turn up and you played a little bit more football than probably we were expecting to. But yeah, it wasn't, it wasn't the best day for us, really. And Stoke's always a hard game. Look, any Premiership, even in the Premier League and stuff like that, nobody wants to go to a Stoke on a Tuesday night, do they? It's not a nice place to go, because they are very you are intimidating to a certain extent, I suppose, but we know that we're going to be in for a battle, and we know that we've got to get stuck in, because it's always a tough game, home or away, against the Stoke, really. How do you feel about that, Mark?
Well,
would you agree?
A cold night in Stoke, as the old saying goes, isn't it? It's,
yeah.
That's never easy. Stoke are an improving side this season, and looking at question for you, George. I mean, they've made quite a lot of signings this in the summer. Quite a few players I can see, like Lyndon Gooch, Daniel Johnson from Preston, obviously Michael Rose on a free from ourselves. McNally on the centre half. Do you feel that Stoke, this is a making of a team that could really push for playoffs this season, or do you think there's still work for Alex Neil to do to get to that point?
I think there's certainly still work to do. There's a little bit of PTSD in terms of Stoke fans since we've come down, picking a point where we go, oh, I think now we might push for promotion, because generally that's ended in a 15th place finish in the past few years. But I think that squad change that you refer to there, I think over a dozen signings in the summer, over a dozen players leaving, it was very much needed. I think there's kind of very few Stoke fans who would say that the squad we had last year was up to scratch in terms of pushing for that higher end of the table. So it'd be interesting to see. There are some signs that things might be starting to gel, in particularly the past kind of 2 weeks or so. But it's still, it's a huge turnover. So trying to get that squad to kind of gel together, I would be surprised if the club. Well, I think the club is aiming for playoff places this year, but I would be surprised if that's kind of the be all and end all. I think this might still be seen as quite a transition season with how many players have come in to the squad over summer.
And what about sorry, Stuart? And obviously Rose and McNally. Obviously, they're two players. Obviously, we had McNally on loan last season. Rose, who's been with us for a few years before he left. I mean, how have they been performing this season for you? Have you been quite impressed with them?
McNally, particularly, I think has been really high quality. Pretty much since he came in, it seemed like him and Ben Wilmot were going to be probably the pair for the season. Now, more recently, Ben Wilmot got an injury for quite a while, so Michael Rose has been kind of deputising. He's been improving. He started off a little bit shaky. I think he's been playing pretty well the past couple of weeks, but he does still have that little mistake in him. Yeah. Which I don't know if that's kind of a part of confidence or a part of playing in a relatively new and a relatively kind of new to each other team as well. Yeah. But I think, a lot of the recent kind of chances we've conceded have come from someone in the defence making a mistake, making a back pass. And that's not always been Rose, but it has a few times, at least in the past couple of months.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, because I was going to say, with the signings that you've made, you have made a lot of, you've pretty much up to your limit on your loans, aren't you? And they're all pretty much from Premier League teams, aren't they? So obviously McNally from, you've got 4 from Premier League teams and 1 from the Scottish Premier League, I believe. Yeah. So how do you think they've adapted to life? Obviously, we know about McNally anyway because obviously we had him the previous season. But how do you think these Premiership players have come in? Are they first on the team sheet, do you think, or they're still taking a little bit of time?
There's a lot of variation still in the squad. I think we've had, which is something that's been quite common for Stoke over the past few years. We've had a big glut of injuries at the start of the season. So I think the squad has kind of been forcibly changed around quite a bit. But some of those players, so Keanu Hoover's one of the Premier League loanees who was with us last season as well, has come back in and kind of seems to have got a little bit back to his best form, and he seems to be quite all right with things. Mark Travers was absolutely fantastic for the first few months.
He was going to be another one that I was going to mention because he's just gone back, hasn't he?
Yeah, and much to the anger of quite a lot of people. So I think the situation there was that Bournemouth asked for an emergency recall as they only had one. They had a goalkeeper and then a 19-year-old, and the Premier League's allowed that. I think it's pretty much come out today that Bournemouth's other keeper is now back in training again. So there doesn't seem to be any love lost between the clubs about that. Okay. But I'd say that's probably one of the areas where we're kind of most concerned in terms of squad depth as it stands.
Okay, fair enough. So obviously we've mentioned a little bit about your expectations and you're hoping to be pushing towards the playoff places. Do you think that's a reality, or do you think a lot of the fan base for Stoke are very much the same thinking as you as a transitional period, or are people jumping the gun a little bit?
I think it often depends. I think if you asked someone if they'd be happy with top half, most Stoke fans would say yes. But I find in the Championship, the kind of the reality of what that means in terms of the number of games you lose to finish, 12th to 8th kind of thing, it doesn't necessarily show up as happiness week to week. I think in theory, yes, I think people are happy with just a transition period where we look positive and we're starting to build some of those things in. Whether people on a week-to-week basis will walk out of the stadium and still be satisfied after however many losses it takes, I'm not so sure. Mm-hmm. I think it's just a case with Stoke of there's been so many years of kind of false dawns and points where we thought something is about to happen and it's immediately dropped off again, that it's going to take quite a bit to get people's kind of trust back, I think, in the side.
Yeah, because obviously, with such a high that we had last year, it's we're very much hitting reality at the moment, if you like, in terms of where we are. How do you feel about that, Mark, with where we are at the moment?
Yeah, of course it's disappointing where we are. I mean, there's no two ways about it. I don't think people expect us to be where we are on the table, but I think I never expected us to challenge for top 6 this season, in all fairness, because losing Gus Hamer and Victor Gyökeres, who probably, in my opinion, were chiefly the main reasons why we got to within the penalty shootout of being a Premier League club. It's very hard to play. It's very hard to replace those players. And yes, Robbins has brought new blood in, and obviously it's taken a lot longer than the fans would want for them to settle in and perform. But I think it's important that we have to stick together as fans and get behind the team, get behind Mark Robbins. It's a tough period of time, but it is what it is. And I thought there were signs in the Preston game where I thought we looked a good side going forward, and we got a couple of goals, but we just looked too easy to play against at times. Our defending has been really poor in recent games. We lose concentration, and this will be music to George's ears because we love hearing this. But it's just been really poor. That the goals we're conceding is Sunday morning stuff. It's not good enough, and it needs to be better. And hopefully they'll have worked on that this week on the training ground, because I think first and foremost we need to get at least a clean sheet, because it's been 4 or 5 games without with no clean sheet. It's not good enough. So that first and foremost, I think if we can get a draw, I know, and that's been negative, being the home side, but let's try and get at least a point with a clean sheet, and that gives you confidence. I mean, a cheeky 1-0 would be even better. But worst case scenario, if you can get a point, and that gives you a little bit of something to work on for next game. But I look at these next 3 games. We've got Stoke at home, Millwall away, Plymouth at home. We need to get 7 points in them games. Let's make 2 ways about it. You've got to win your home games, really, in all honesty. So, I mean, after that, when you're playing the big guns, Ipswich obviously second in the league, Southampton, Leeds United, these are clubs that are playing in December. So I think it's really important we've got to get 3 points on Saturday. Stoke, of course, are a decent Championship side, but look, there's no easy game in this league. You've got to be up for the fight. And we need a performance from the team. We need to defend well. We need to take our chances. It's all the same things we say week in, week out. So I'm hoping for a positive performance on Saturday.
Yeah. So obviously obviously we've spoken about the defence. We've spoken about the link between McNally and Rose, and the fact that you've kept a few clean sheets. With your defence being involved, who would you say at the moment, because you're kind of struggling for an out-and-out number 9, aren't you? Who would you say is your number 9, or who are you expecting the goals from?
Well, it's been a bit of a variation, to be honest. Early in the season, the goals were coming from new signing Andre Vidigal. So he came in and kind of took it by storm, and those games where we needed a goal to break the deadlock, a game where we needed someone to do something, quality, that's what he was doing. He's only recently back from injury, so he's kind of been a little bit in and out, not quite at that kind of level, but as to be expected. There was Ryan Mai for a while, who is probably, you would say, the kind of most technically gifted striker of the group, but again, coming back from injury, so I would be very surprised if he starts. He may well be involved, but I don't think he'll start. And that leaves Wesley and Dwight Gale. Now, Wesley is the kind of classic big unit number 9. Really good at holding the ball up, a really kind of strong, aerially dominant player, but hasn't got his league goals just yet. Has come close to doing so, but I'd be surprised if he's favoured.
I'm sure he'll get it.
Yeah. I'll be surprised if he's favoured kind of start in this game, given how we've been trying to play away from home, which probably means that it's going to be Dwight Gale. And I've got very mixed opinions about Dwight Gale and how he's been playing. I think you're not going to get goals. I say that now, he's going to score and I'll get 100 tweets telling me that I'm wrong, but he's not quite the goal scorer he used to be. He doesn't have that extra yard anymore where he can get past people.
Yeah.
There was a point in last Saturday's game where he's through on goal and Dwight Gale of 5 years ago walks around the goalkeeper and taps it in, and he's kicked it straight at the keeper's chest, basically. And I think that kind of epitomizes what he is. But what he can do is he's very competent in the pressing unit, and he's very good he can be a very good link-up player if he's on his game. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him kind of dropping a little bit deeper and maybe playing in that link-up and let the wingers basically do the attacking for him in terms of getting the goals. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but I would say our goal-scoring threat is probably going to come from trying to win it quite high up the pitch and hoping that someone is around to score rather than necessarily trying to feed it through someone.
Okay, fair enough. On that side of things, then, what do you think, or what is your fan base thinking that the threats from us? What is that at the moment? What's going around in that way?
There's a mixture, really. I mean, we've kept clean sheets recently.
Yeah.
So I think it's 3 of the last 3 games we've kept clean sheets in. There was a lot of issues prior to that. I think a goal that we conceded maybe 4 or 5 times in the first 7 or 8 games was the ball drops in the box, someone takes a touch, turns and can finish. And those really basic things where you watch it and go, how has he got that much space? I hesitate to say that seems to be a little bit better now. Again, knowing full well that that's going to happen on Saturday.
I'm not so sure. I think you're more confident on that than we are.
I think it's there's a mixture of. There's always a tendency that there could be a mistake, and I know that's probably the case at all Championship clubs, really. But that's generally where the issues have come from: a simple ball over the top, a ball down the line, and someone's kind of done something good 1v1. And then, as it stands, Jack Bonham is starting in goal. Who played very well when he was told to come in last weekend and the weekend before, but is still very much a number 2. And he's had his good games, but he's also had his bad games. So that'll be one to watch, particularly, I think.
Yeah. Is there anybody from obviously our striker wise or midfield that you've heard of that is going to pose a threat? Have you not really looked at that much?
I'll be very interested to see. Is Sims isn't injured or anything, is he?
No.
I'd be interested to see the matchup then with Sims and Rose or McNally. Last year we were very, very aggressive pressing forward, and we kind of left. I think it might have been Jagielka even at the time, and on Gyökeres and whoever else was up front in that point. So I'd be very interested to see if we do the same thing with Sims, given that he can be kind of quite mobile and quite good in that hold-up play as well. Okay. So I think that might be quite interesting.
Okay, fair enough. Anything on that, Mark?
I was going to ask about Ben Pearson, because I remember watching him play a few times, and I think he's a really decent holding midfield player. I mean, how's he been playing for you this season?
He's always going to be one that, for most fans, if you ask them how Ben Pearson's played, he's been brilliant. I think he's probably struggled a little bit more at the start of this season. He seems to be leaning into what you expect Ben Pearson to be just a little bit too much. So there's a lot of fouls, there's a lot of stupid yellow cards. that's kind of what you expect and what you accept from him. But sometimes there's a little bit of petulance there, I think. He's not started as well as he kind of finished the last season, but then again, his midfield kind of around him has changed and chopped quite a lot since the start of the season. So I think once he's in a little bit more of a settled kind of three in that midfield, that we might see what we expected him, really. And
in terms of, I mean, generally Alex Neil tends to play like a 4-5-1 formation, just looking at sort of previous games. Do you think tactically that's how Stoke will likely set up? And also, what style of football does Alex Neil like to play as well?
Yeah, it'll be. I would be very surprised if it's not that kind of 4-5-1, 4-3-3. It'll be a very hard working front three, trying to sort of set traps and force the ball to the fullbacks and then launch onto it.
Yeah.
Another new signing who plays on the right wing, Mehdi Larice, who we got over from Italy, is very kind of hard working, put in the hard yards and kind of chase down his players quite a lot. So it's a lot of that sort of setting traps high up the pitch and trying to win it back quickly as much as you can. I think that's it. Do that, get balls in the box, hope to cause chaos is how we've kind of been going for it this year.
Yeah, no, and that was similar to how Stoke played last season. In fairness, they were outstanding, and I thought I can't remember the guy who played midfield. I think the chap who's gone to Southampton now.
Will Smallburn.
I thought he was quality. He was a fantastic player. And to me, he looked a cut above the rest for me that game. He was different class for me. So I'm glad he's not anywhere near the Stoke team now. So that's one tick in the box from our point of view. I suppose, Stuart, from our point of view, what do you reckon our formation would be? What's the team you'd go for if you're Mark Robins sitting?
Well, obviously, anybody who watches our X Space or my Twitter that I put up, I would like to see a 4-3-3. Whether he's stubborn enough to not change his ways, as in Mark Robbins' ways, we will have to wait and see. I would like to, like I said, I would like to go with the 4-3-3. I had on my Twitter feed or X feed that I did today with the team that I put out there, I actually put Wilson in goal. I don't think it will be. I think it will be Collins in goal. I think we'll go with a back four, hopefully, of Milan, Binks, Kitchen, and Bidwell.
Yeah,
we'll probably maybe even try and match Stoke up a little bit and go for a 4-3-3. That's what I would like to think. Play Sheaf and Latibaudiere and Callum O'Hare if he's ready to start. Hopefully he is. He's had a little bit longer and longer, so hopefully he can come in and link the midfield to the attackers. And then the strikers, I'd have Hadji Wright on the left, Sims up the middle, and then I'd start Sakamoto on the right hand side, just because he's a little bit more mobile, I think, and anywhere between them three, I think they can cross over. So you might find at one stage there might be Sakamoto down the middle and Hadji Wright on the left and Sims on the right, or Sims on the left and Hadji Wright down the middle and Sakamoto. So with that, it allows us to do things differently. But what it also does is if we're getting absolutely hammered in the central midfield by Ben Pearson and the other players that Stoke have got, and they might play with one up front, because if they play with one up front, I don't think we need four at the back. We can go three at the back and make that midfield a little bit stronger ourselves, because we've got that flexibility that we can put Latty straight into a back three. Yeah. But when we start with a back three, with the other players that he will probably start, I don't think that gives us the flexibility to do that. So I would like to see us start with a 4-3-3, just like we ended the game against Preston, where we absolutely terrorised them again. We couldn't score, really, but we terrorised them and we got in their faces a lot more, go into a four at the back. And I would like to see that four at the back as well.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think Robbins may be a little bit too stubborn, and he likes his three at the back. He likes his wing backs. So he may opt for that. I hope he doesn't, but I think he may do.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that as well. I mean, I would, I think I would go Brad Collins in goal, definitely. Van Ivak, Kitchen, and Binks as my centre backs. I go Bidwell as well. I agree with you on that one. I think Lati Bodier has to start centre midfield, but as you say, I think Robbins is pretty stubborn. He wouldn't surprise me if he's right back, something like that, or even centre back. Ben Sheaf. I'm kind of a toss up for me between Eccles and Jamie Allen for that centre midfield spot. I think Eccles has done well. I think his tackling's good, but his set pieces is really poor, and that's something that is kind of a bit of a problem for me. But I'm kind of undecided on that one. I'd probably just about go for Eccles, and then I'd go Sakamoto a bit behind the front two of Brighton Sims. I can see why you want Callum O'Hare to start, because it might be that he's fit to start. So I think that's just something Robbins will have to assess. But I think that kind of formation, I kind of think would be probably where we need to be looking at for this game. But
I get that to a certain extent, but the issue that I've got with Sakamoto playing as the number 10 against a Stoke is the same reason that I didn't really like him playing there against Swansea. Stoke are a very physical side, and they'll be in your faces, and I can just see him getting a little bit bullied, if you like. He was a little bit naive against Swansea when he played in the number 10, just because he was getting kicked all over the park, and where Callum O'Hare's probably a little bit cleverer, just because he's been in the league a lot longer than Sakamoto has. There's nothing against Sakamoto, but I just think that he could have been a little bit clever in getting the free kicks. It might turn out that he is clever at playing in that because he's been in there a little bit longer now. But I just think he might get bullied against a Stoke side. And, I think we need to pick and choose on when we play him. But I think if he's out on the wide, not playing in that central role as such and a little bit wider, I think it might give him a little bit of freedom. And he's got pace as well. So if you do, I would like to see us bypass the midfield slightly on the odd occasion to make their defence turn around and run back. I don't think he will because, but again, Robbins is stubborn. He likes his possession-based football, which is lovely. But when we haven't won a game in so long, you just kind of, again, you want to see something slightly different. But I don't necessarily want to see him playing that number 10 against Stoke. I just think he'd get bullied too much.
I get your argument on that. I just think with Sakamoto, the counter argument is he gets the ball, he runs at players, and no defenders wants to be run at. And I think he could win free kicks, much the same way as Callum O'Hare. And I think, to be honest with you, I'm quite relaxed whoever plays in that position. I'm not really fussed. I just think Sakamoto, for me, has been probably one of our best signings this season. Certainly a 7 out of 10 player for me. And but it'll be interesting to see which way it goes. But I think Stoke, George, do you think Stoke are a sort of side that's going to set up and try and hit us on the counter? Do you think that's the way Alex Neil's going to try and play? Or do you think it'll be a higher pressing game, similar to how they played last time out at CBS?
I think it depends. I think he will want to play that high pressing game. And it has certainly happened a couple of times in the past few weeks, particularly we beat Middlesbrough 2-0 away. And that was kind of back to what we saw last April at the CBS. It's a toss-up as to which Stoke's going to turn up, I think. He'll try and play that way. There's also a chance that it might not be working and we might naturally drop a little bit deeper. But particularly if you're playing possession football, the aim will be to push up and try and win things quite high up the pitch, or at least force you into playing longer. And then rely on Rose and McNally to kind of mop up at the back.
Yeah.
For that kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna prize a prediction out of you, George, first. If you can give us a prediction and a goal scorer or scorers, if you think there's going to be multiple.
I'm going to be positive and go for a 1-0 smash and grab. And I'm going to say, because I've kept on talking about how poor a goal scorer is, that Dwight Gale's going to score it somehow. It might come off his backside, but they all count.
Fair enough. How about yourself, Mark?
Well, anyone who knows me knows I like sitting on the fence.
Yeah.
So I can't see us winning, in all honesty, because we haven't really done enough in the last 4 games to win any games really. So I'm going to sit on the fence and go 0-0. I'm going to be positive in the sense that we'll keep a clean sheet. I'm not saying it with much confidence really, because it wouldn't surprise me if Stoke win. But I've got to be as positive as I can be. I'm going for a 0-0. I just can't see us winning.
Okay, I like the clean sheet. I do like that. I'm going to go for the reverse though. I'm going to go for a 1-0 to Cov, and I think there's going to be an unusual goal scorer, and I'm going to go for Bidwell because he hasn't played for a while, and if he does start, he can whip a ball in. He's scored once before for us, so I'm sure he can do it again for us as well. So, thank you very much to both of you. But just before we finish, George, we like to do with guests that we have on. We like to do a little bit of a word association. So I'll just say a few words and stuff, and if you can give us a one-worded answer, if it's possible. Don't worry if it's a little bit longer. Okay.
Okay.
So the first one is Alex O'Neill.
Confident.
Okay. Bet365 Stadium.
Oof, that's tough. Cold.
Wow. Okay.
I'll just go simple with that and go with cold.
Okay.
At the minute.
That's apt, that description. I like
that. Favourite away ground?
The best I've been to was an away day at Leicester, but I wouldn't say that was the ground. Let me think of that. I'm going to go for Villa, actually.
Okay. Wow.
A couple of really nice days there.
Brilliant. Next future star?
Andre Vidigal. I've got to go for him.
Okay. And the 23-24 season so far?
Struggling not to just make a kind of sound. I might.
meh.
If I go with maybe good, and leave it
Okay.
at that, and then I can reassess it after the weekend.
All right, no worries. Right, thank you both for coming on. If you can just say where we can find you again, George, and what you guys do.
Perfect. Yeah. So I myself sort of write about anything and all things sort of Stoke City in terms of analysis and stats and anything like that. And you can find me on Twitter at Potalytics or on my website at potalytics.blog.
Fantastic. Just remember where you guys can find us. It is scrolling down the bottom, but you can find us on X, formerly known as Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. We are partnered with the Anecdote as well. We will be live in the Anecdote for the home fans. So if any of you guys do want to come up to us, by all means, we can try and get you on camera and get your say on there as well. It'd be much appreciated. We are on YouTube as well, and obviously we'll send you the link to this, George, so you can put it on your feeds and Spotify and whatever else that you do as well. So again, just once again, thank you, Mark, for coming on.
Thanks, Stuart.
Thank you, George, for coming on from Potalytics. Much appreciated. And we'll see you guys. Are you going on Saturday, by the way, George?
I'm not myself. No, I can't make this weekend's one. No
worries. All right then, pal. Well, I hope we win. Good luck for the future, though, for the rest of the season. Obviously, apart from when you play us.
Yeah, same to yourselves.
Thank you very much. Cheers, guys.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.